Nagaland ignited in outrage earlier this week when a 19th century horned Naga skull was put up for auction at the Swan in Tesworth, England. With a valuation between pound 3,500 and pound 4,500, this listing struck a nerve with the public. इसमें जो कठिन शब्द जो है वो है इग्नाइटेड मतलब भड़कना, आउटरेज मतलब गुस्सा, स्ट्रक अ नर्व मतलब चोट लगना. Nagaland Chief Minister Nephew Rio urged the Ministry of External Affairs to intervene with the Indian High Commission in the UK. इसमें कुछ शब्द है अर्ज मतलब विनती करना, इंटरवेन मतलब हस्तक्षेप करना. Amplifying the Naga community's long-standing efforts to repatriate. एम्पलीफाई मतलब कुछ चीज का आवाज बढ़ना मतलब ज्यादा डिमांड बढ़ना. रिपैट्रिएट होता है स्वदेश लेके आना. Ancestral remains from various museums in England and reclaim their history. Reclaim मतलब प्राप्त करना. We urge the government of India to do everything possible to ensure that the rights and emotions of our people are protected, he wrote in his letter. Colonial interest in Naga Hills. The Naga Hills, as pursued by the British, extended westward from Patkai ranges bordering the Brahmaputra Valley. Today, the Patkai includes mountains along the Indo-Myanmar border, encamp- encompassing मतलब शामिल करता है अरुणाचल प्रदेश, नागालैंड एंड पार्ट्स ऑफ अपर बर्मा. British colonial authority in the Naga Hills began after their victory over the Burmese in the First Anglo-Burmese War in 1826, leading to the enforcement of the Treaty of Yandabu. Within 15 years, the British annexed मतलब होता है हड़प कर लेना. British annexed Assam, Kachar, Jaintia, and several tribal states of the Khasi Hills. The first encounter between the Nagas and the British occurred in the January 1832 when a Major Francis Jenkins and Captain R. Boileau Pembantur sought मतलब होता है ढूंढना या खोजना, sought a land route from Manipur to Assam between 1839 and 1851. The British conducted 10 punitive expeditions into the Naga Hills. Punitive होता है दंडात्मक और expeditions मतलब अभियान. Academic academician Sangamitra Mishra, in her article The Nature of Colonial Interventions in the Naga Hills, 1840 to 1880, notes that the early colonial interests were driven by मतलब संचालित होना. The strategic significance of the Naga Hills as a frontier. फ्रंटियर होता है सरहद या सीमा प्रदेश. टू कमर्शियली वैल्यूएबल एरियाज, कमर्शियल मतलब वाणिज्य की दृष्टि से वैल्यूएबल एरिया. By 1843, the discovery of tea plants in the lower Naga Hills provided a substantial होता है संतोषजनक, substantial incentive मतलब प्रोत्साहन प्रलोभन for British annexation, leading to proposal for permanent military outpost to effect progressive reform and reinforcing the colonial belief in the region's lawlessness. Initially, Initially, the British adopted a policy of non-interference, but they abandoned this approach in 1866 in favor of a more aggressive forward policy, which established military posts and facilitated the colonization of the Naga Hills. By 1873, the boundary between the Naga Hills and Manipur was established. This surveying and mapping, as Mishra urges, contributed towards the extension of colonial hegemony in the area. Hegemony मतलब नेतृत्व. The Naga Hills district was created in 1866 by the government of British India, and it became a district of Assam province. Although colonial expansion was framed as an altruistic intervention, altruistic मतलब होता है परोपकारी. Mishra observed that it was undoubtedly the strategic location of the Naga Hills and the need to protect the economy of the Assam Valley. Notably, there is no evidence that tribes self-identified as Naga in pre-colonial times. Records from the 1841 indicated a racially diverse population with distinct identities, including groups such as the Angami, Ao, and Sema. Scholars argue that the term of Naga emerged as a colonial construct, serving as a homogeneous label that helped explain intertribal conflicts and justify British intervention in the hills. The monetization of tribal life. Scholarly work indicates that the Naga Hills and a self-sufficient tribal economy had a self-sufficient tribal economy prior to British intervention. मिश्रा साइट्स मतलब होता है हवाला देते हैं documents detailing trade between the Naga Hills and the surrounding plains. The Nagas excel in irrigation, organized labor, and the crop cultivation. Notably, the Angamis practiced the terrace cultivation and grew various crops, while tribes like the Lohta, Rengma, Ao, Sema, and Koeng engaged in Jhum cultivation. To transform this economy, the British implemented a land revenue policy that imposed मतलब होता है थोपना that imposed various taxes including house tax and a tax on a rice grains. The the Fuseli Cuneo in their PhD thesis emerging land relations in the Nagaland, a study of the Angami community 2019 notes that from 1880 to 1881 the Angami paid a house tax of 2 rupees and 1 mound of rice, while the Lotha and Rengma paid 1 rupee. By 1893, the Angami house tax had risen to 3 rupees, generating a net gain of rupees 6,000. Additionally, the British employed locals as a wage laborers known as coolies, making this a vital supplementary occupation. A job supplementary occupation मतलब a job that a sponsored worker can do in addition to their primary job, मतलब making this a vital supplementary occupation for a tribal communities to cope. टू कोप होता है मतलब सामना करना मतलब एडजस्ट करना with the economic burden of British taxes. By the late 19th century, the British established shops in strategic locations and organized market hats in their interior, creating a local centers for exporting goods and distributing imports. Religion in the Naga Hills. Christianity was first introduced to the Naga Hills by American missionary E.W. Clark, who arrived in the Ao Naga Hills in 1872 followed by British missionaries in 1878. Mishra argues that the colonial accounts are biased, often portraying the Nagas as lacking definitive religious beliefs. पोर्ट्रेइंग होता है किसी किसी स्थिति का चित्रण करना, मतलब चित्रित करना. Religious beliefs while emphasizing their perceived ability to adapt to new religions due to their so-called primitive state. She notes, like all pagans होता है प्रतिमा पूजक, मतलब the like all pagans, the Nagas were considered fitter objects for the missionary. Fitter objects मतलब जैसे मौके का फायदा उठाने वाले, for the missionary than for the soldiers. During a period of increasing proselytizing by the American, she notes, like all pagans pagans होता है प्रतिमा पूजक, like all pagans, the Nagas were considered fitter objects for the missionary than for soldiers during a period of increasing proselytizing by the American Baptist mission in the region. इसमें दो तीन शब्द है जो जैसे पागन्स मतलब प्रतिमा पूजक, फिटर ऑब्जेक्ट्स मतलब जिनसे मौके का फायदा उठाया जा सकता है, प्रोसेलिटाइजिंग मतलब धर्मांतरण की विधि. In contrast, later accounts by British anthropologist J. H. Hutton reveals the rich diversity of pre-colonial Naga religious life, highlighting the social ceremonies and the important role of magic within the community. नागा रेजिलियंस मतलब उनका पलटाव. द रिसेंटमेंट मतलब क्रोध, रोष. द रिसेंटमेंट एंड रेजिस्टेंस ऑफ द नागास to colonial intervention in the Naga hills are evident in the constant hostility. Hostility होता है शत्रुता. Constant hostility directed at the British, both both at their military outpost and during survey operations leading up to direct annexation. A notable instance of this resistance occurred in a present-day Kohima district, as cited by Professor Nigmananda Das of Nagaland University in his essay Revisiting Naga Resistance to British Colonialism, a study of Naga village remembered and related historical texts. This village, consisting of just 500 houses, faced attack in 1832, 1849, 1850, and 1879. In October 1879, before the final British assault, villagers killed British Deputy Commissioner G. H. Damant. Additionally, the Angami tribe refused to pay their first year's tribute to the British and continued to raid British outposts. This was also significant resistance to the spread of Christianity during the early years of British rule. नागा आर्टिफैक्ट्स इन डिस्टेंट म्यूजियम्स. आर्टिफैक्ट्स होता है कलाकृतियां, डिस्टेंट मतलब जो दूर दूर वैसे म्यूजियम है. द रिसेंट ऑक्शन, ऑक्शन होता है नीलामी. The recent auction of Naga skull in England has sparked outrage among activists. Alok Kumar Kanungo, a faculty member at IIT Gandhinagar, discussed the historical context in an interview with IndianExpress.com. He noted that in the 1890, German anthropologist Philipp Wilhelm Adolf Bastian traveled to the Naga hills and collected 222 objects for research. He later sent Otto Ehrenfried Ehlers to the region from 1891 to 1893, furthering colonial interventions. Kumar emphasized that while the Naga people have rich heritage encompassing civil architecture, wood carving, textiles, and metallurgy, colonial narratives often sensationalize headhunting, overshadowing the community's profound history. इसमें जैसे एम्फोसाइज मतलब होता है जोर देना, एनकम्पासिंग होता है शामिल करना, नैरेटिव मतलब मनगढ़ंत कहानी होती है, और सेंसेशनलाइज मतलब सनसनीखेज। During the peak of the museum movement in 18th and 19th century, institutions like the Pitt Rivers Museum in Oxford, UK, collected extensively, amassing 6,466 Naga objects. The Cambridge University Museum holds around 1,500 objects, while the British Museum has about 1,000. He explained, these materials include countless atoms of immense emotional and cultural value to the Nagas. To the Nagas, these remains embody their tradition, history, culture, identity, knowledge system, inventions, and innovations. The restoration of these physical remains requires immediate attention, he insisted. कुछ शब्द जैसे एम्बॉडी मतलब समाविष्ट करना, इन्वेंशन मतलब आविष्कार जो नया होता है, एंड इनोवेशन मतलब नवाचार, रिफाइन